Zaraki Kenpachi, the only man who could dull the blade of the main protagonist with his mere presence. There is more to this story than meets the eye. In this video, we'll be chronicling the rise of the strongest Shinigami and how he went from a bloodthirsty, nameless boy to captain of the Gotei 13 and ultimately the holder of the title, Kenpachi. A spoiler alert is now in effect for all our anime-only fans, for we will be covering every aspect of the battle-hungry captain's journey. And that includes the iconic deathmatch between the two Kenpachi and Zaraki's big Bankai reveal. Let's go back to the very beginning of the Bleach story with Kurosaki Ichigo's infiltration of Soul Society to rescue Kuchiki Rukia, a Shinigami facing execution for passing on her Soul Reaper powers to him. After defeating Madarame Ikkaku and Aburai Renji, Ichigo is stopped in his tracks by a tremendous Reiatsu. It quite obviously belongs to Zaraki, who at this moment builds up tension like no other character in the entire series. Easily one of the most incredible highlights of the Soul Society arc, the fight that ensues between Zaraki and Ichigo serves as one hell of a character introduction for the wild-haired captain. The power gap between the two opponents is so extreme that Ichigo comes within an inch of losing his life. But is Zaraki just another obstacle to Ichigo's character development? Not by a long shot. Alone in the wilderness of lawless Rukongai, Zaraki learned to survive by the edge of his sword. Unlike regular Shinigami who take on a regulated path to attain their powers, for instance by rolling in the Shino Academy or Spiritual Arts Academy, Zaraki broke all boundaries from the very beginning. After coming across Asachi or nameless zanpakuto of a fallen Shinigami, he imprints his soul upon the sword and makes it his own. As a child, he meets Unohana Retsu, formerly known as Unohana Yachiru, the first ever Kenpachi and later captain of the 4th Division. This fateful encounter changes the direction of Zaraki's life as he comes to savor the thrill of battle with an equal for the very first time. Emulating his newly found rival and mentor, Zaraki pushes on to claim the title of Kenpachi. He dramatically does this by killing the 10th Kenpachi, who is also the 11th Division captain, in front of his horrified squad members. After his victory, Zaraki claimed both positions. The title of Kenpachi is presented to the strongest Shinigami with the greatest number of kills in his or her generation. And in an ironclad rule, it has to be won in a match to the death with the predecessor. In a crowd of exceptionally talented and powerful captains such as head commander Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto, Zaraki holds his own. He is the only Shinigami in the Gotei 13 to become captain without even knowing the name of his zanpakuto, let alone being able to perform its release states of Shikai or Bankai, the latter of which is mandatory for a captain. As someone who relishes the thrill of battle, Zaraki relies solely on his Reiatsu and combat skills, and looks down on anyone who fights banking solely on their zanpakuto's abilities, going so far as to tie bells on his hair to give his opponent some leverage over him and limiting his spiritual pressure with the special eye patch. Zaraki is a battle fiend whose appetite for a good fight is insatiable. Of course, Ichigo wins his duel against Zaraki by a hair's breadth, but is it the orange hair Wonder Boy's victory? As Kusajishi Yachiru, Zaraki's lieutenant, rightly points out, it was 2 versus 1 because Ichigo was fighting alongside his zanpakuto, Zangetsu. However, for a man obsessed with combat, Zaraki is no masculine meathead. He endears himself to fans with the warmth of his personality and surprising innocence. Having all but adopted his lieutenant as an orphan child in the past, he names her Yachiru after Unohana. The two have been inseparable ever since. Likewise, his relationship with the squad's 3rd seat, Ikkaku, and 5th seat, Ayasagawa Yumichika, is quite a homely affair, despite the death threats he throws around occasionally. Having followed Zaraki since their days in Rukongai, Ikkaku keeps his Bankai a closely guarded secret for fear that he may be promoted to captain and sent to lead a different squad. It is plain to see that Zaraki holds his squad members' unswerving loyalty and commands respect by his strength alone. Therefore, when some of the other captains look down on him for his low-born status or his brutish ways, Zaraki remains unfazed and proud of his achievements. An easygoing man, he seems to befriend strong characters, even if they were once enemies. This is why, having found a worthy opponent in Ichigo, Zaraki considers him a member of his squad and comically insists on a rematch every time they meet. As a war veteran, Zaraki does not lack honor. To uphold it, he takes it upon himself to fight his fellow captains, Kaname Tosen and Saijin Komamura, to defend Ichigo's friends after they infiltrated Soul Society. In an amazing display of power, Zaraki even manages to completely negate Tosen's Bankai Anma Korogi, despite falling under its spell and losing all but one of his senses, which is touch. If you still do not love Zaraki, then imagine the towering war machine giving Yachiru and Inoue Urahime a piggyback ride. After the clash with Ichigo, Zaraki's next shining moment comes in the Hueco Mundo arc. In another kick-ass entrance, he blocks Arrancar Tessera Lindo Cruz's blow, which is directed at Ichigo and casually mocks Ichigo for almost getting himself killed. This is followed by an awesome one-shot, one-kill moment where Zaraki, cool as a cucumber, slices Tessera in half. But the 11th Division captain meets his match in Neutra Gilga, the 5th Espada of Aizen Sosuke's army, who is as bloodthirsty and combat-hungry as him. Neutra is as much a terror as Zaraki, having declared that he would prefer to die on his feet and drown in his own blood. Known to possess the strongest hierro, or iron skin amongst the Espada, Neutra makes the perfect sparring partner for Zaraki. The Shinigami is naturally excited at the prospect of facing and overcoming major obstacles thrown at him mid-battle. In his resurrection form, Santa Teresa, Neutra relentlessly slashes at Zaraki to the point where the latter acknowledges that he is at a very real risk of getting killed if he doesn't come up with a countermeasure soon. In an intriguing touch by Bleach creator Tite Kubo, Zaraki resorts to fighting Neutra with Kendo, the Japanese art of swordsmanship that uses both hands, which is vastly different from his usual single-handed freestyle swordplay. And with one swing of his sword, Neutra is almost cut in half. The clash with Neutra should have left him half dead, but living up to his reputation, Zaraki rushes straight into another battle, this time against the highest-ranked Espada, Yami Yargo. At first, Zaraki is forced to take on a partner who happens to be the stoic and regal Kuchiki Byakuya, captain of the 6th Division. Their widely contrasting personalities makes for a fun matchup. Despite the fight not being one of Zaraki's best, there's no denying the prowess he displays. As the war with Aizen comes to a close, Zaraki, with the rest of the Gotei 13, ends up in the human world to rescue Ichigo from the Fullbringers. This is where he wins his fastest and probably most boring fight, slicing Kutsuzawa Giriko in half in a heartbeat. It is a disappointing matchup for Zaraki, but forgivable because of the mind-blowing twist that is to come in the 1000-year Blood War arc. Once again, this is a spoiler alert for anime-only fans as we dive into unreleased details. With the Wandenreich's invasion of Soul Society, Zaraki finds himself smack in the middle of a deadly standoff. The other captains struggle with the Sternritters, who are elite Quincy officers with the power to steal any Bankai released within their reach. But Zaraki has no problem killing 3 of them. The Kenpachi is included in the Quincy's list of 5 special war powers, along with Ichigo for his latent potential due to his mixed heritage, 0 Division Hyosobe Ichibei for his all-around abilities, Aizen for his logic-defying Reiatsu, and Urahara Kisuke for his adaptive battle strategy. Zaraki starts at the top of the list, but is bumped down to the 2nd spot after losing to a Sternritter pretending to be yhwach, the father of the Quincy and the arc's chief antagonist. But that is unimportant, as we all know that this is just the beginning of his meteoric rise to power. In the wake of Captain Commander Yamamoto's death, Kyoraku Shunsui steps up as the new head of the Gotei 13 and immediately sets the ball rolling on measures to counter the impending Quincy assault. One of them is the brilliant plan to have Zaraki initiated in the art of Zenjutsu, a style of swordplay by none other than the first Kenpachi, Unohana Retsu. If we go back to the time when Zaraki uses Kendo to destroy Neutra, it is mentioned that his training was cut short by the Central 46 because they feared he would be unstoppable. Knowing for a fact that the Shinigami world now stands on the brink of annihilation, Shunsui decides to place his bets on the 11th Division captain. Led by Unohana to the deepest cell in the underground prison Muken for their training, it is with a heavy heart that we watch the 2 Kenpachi clash. Scenes from the past reveal their first encounter when Zaraki feels fear for the first time and Unohana is set free from an endless cycle of boredom as she meets an opponent who is finally worth her time. It is uncanny how similar the two are, as Unohana too lives for the thrill of battle. She has polished her healing powers to a large extent to heal herself and her foe to stretch out a fight. Watching the 2 soulmates collide is nothing but spectacular. Almost killing Zaraki over and over again to free him of the subconscious restraints he has placed on himself, Unohana finally releases her Bankai in one of the best and most anticipated Bankai reveals in Bleach. With its bloody appearance, Unohana's Bankai seems to complement the 2 fighters' bloodlust. This scene is straight out of a gore film. With every slash of her sword, Unohana pushes Zaraki to unlock his sleeping powers until he ultimately does so and impales her. That's how the disciple surpasses the master. As the first Kenpachi draws her last breath, Zaraki, in the agony of losing his one true rival, is restored to his original strength. And this is when he finally hears the voice of his zanpakuto, Nozarashi, for the first time. Just in time to test his newly found powers, the Vanenreich launches its second attack to take control of the Soul King, and Zaraki finds himself face to face with another Stern Ritter, Gremmy Tomo, whose ability is to turn fantasy into reality. Now the one true Kenpachi of his generation, Zaraki cuts through everything Gremmy throws at him, including a meteor large enough to obliterate Sarate. When Zaraki finally calls out Nozarashi and his Shikai takes the shape of an impressive axe, the Gotei 13 reclaims some of its lost prestige. Frustrated by Zaraki's strength, Gremmy accidentally self-destructs while imagining himself to be stronger than Zaraki. His death makes it abundantly clear that Zaraki's Reiatsu is not something one can easily replicate or fathom, and that his physical body is that much stronger to be able to contain such power without exploding. In line for the next big revelation, Zaraki's lieutenant Yachiru vanishes, leaving just her clothes behind. An inconsolable Zaraki doesn't, however, shirk his responsibilities, displaying a level of maturity that is surprising given his quarrelsome ways. He is soon involved in a clash with Gerard Valkyrie, who is giving the Shinigami and Visored fighting him a tough time. Gerard is not just a Quincy, but also the heart of the Soul King. His ability, called the Miracle, can turn around any situation, making him almost invincible. Zaraki joins Byakuya and 10th Division Captain Hitsugaya Toshiro, who are the only Shinigami still standing, and makes an immediate impact by slicing off Gerard's forearm. But with his powers, Gerard soon turns the contest to his side. Just as all seems lost, Nozarashi's spirit manifests itself as Yachiru and transmits the power of the Bankai to Zaraki. What follows is unforgettable. With a massive blast of energy, the Kenpachi transforms into a red-skinned horned demon, or Japanese Oni, a characteristic never before seen in any Captain's Bankai release. The mysterious appearance of Yachiru as his Zanpakuto's manifestation too takes us back to their first encounter where, as a toddler, she seems almost enchanted at the sight of blood and instinctively touches Zaraki's blood-smeared sword. We can safely assume Nozarashi had always been right by her master's side from the very beginning. Furthermore, complementing the Kenpachi's bloodlust legacy, she is one hell of a scary Zanpakuto. Gerard is cut in half effortlessly, and Zaraki's legendary durability, which confounded many strong opponents, suffers as well. Nozarashi accidentally releases too much power, resulting in Zaraki's arm exploding from the sudden surge in power. With all the pieces falling into place, Zaraki is one of the best written and most complete characters in the Bleach universe. And with these epic battles in the final arc yet to be released in the anime, the wait is that much more infuriating. Although the manga has long ended, don't you wish we could see more of Zaraki and maybe pray for a miracle to induce Tite Kubo to continue this phenomenal saga?